Mike Kenberger with Tricky Fast Studios. Today I'm going to continue our video series on the inventory system in Cat RPG Builder. In the first video, you learned how to create inventory items, placed items, and how to hook them up so that the player can pick up the items and have them in their inventory. Today I'm going to go over how to create an inventory UI. By the end of this video, you should be able to create a basic inventory UI, including options for dropping items and using them. So let's get started. I'm starting right where the previous video left off. In the scene that we used, we already had an inventory window pre-created. So let's look at how that works. First of all, it did start disabled, and I've just enabled it. But there's also this inventory button in our canvas here. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos, a great way to set up buttons is to turn them into state machines. So this is the actual button here. It's turned into a state machine. I've placed a triggered action on it with a UI button trigger pointed at owner, so the button, and then a set enabled action to enable the inventory window. Note that I've had to reference it by its path, because otherwise, if the inventory window is disabled, I can't target it by name directly. So I've targeted the main canvas and then used inventory window, which is the name of the window, as the path. So that means whenever you click this button, it's going to enable this window. So in the window, we just have a regular close button. All that does, once again, that's a state machine with a UI button trigger on it. And then it just sets it disabled, sets the window disabled whenever you click on it. Pretty quick, pretty easy. The main thing that we have here, let's take a look at this, is our items. So that is a UI layout group data bind. And what we've said here is for the object list value, we're pointing to the player, and then we've added a reference name. So that's through options, reference name. And then we've set it to bindable items. So bindable items is obviously a list of items in a bindable format. So these are all the inventory items that the player has. There's other options that we could use, such as bindable equipped items and bindable slots. If we wanted to have a more slot-based inventory where we showed the player, what open slots they have. So we've also got this list prefab here. Select that. So we're just going to bring that in to show here. So if you remember from previous videos, the UI layout group data bind takes this list value here, the object list value, and for each item in that list, it's going to spawn a new prefab from this list prefab. So in this case, it's one of these. So I'm just going to add that to the scene so we can see it. So this is what each individual inventory item is going to look like. So at the top level, we do have this set to be a state machine with a button trigger on the icon, which we have here, which has a button script on it. And when that button is triggered, it's going to play an audio clip of equipping, and it's also going to enable this menu that we have. So the menu, look at that quickly here. So we have two buttons on the menu, a drop button and a use button. So the drop button has a UI, is also a state machine. It's very useful to make buttons into state machines. And then it has a button trigger, of course, and then a drop item action. So drop item action, right? So the target is the player. The item that we're dropping, we're pointing to the owner and then one up. So the owner here is drop, and then one up is menu. And as you see, menu has a data bind base, and we're pointing at the binding. So whatever menu is bound to, which is going to be whatever item we're talking about here. And then we have a set enabled action to set this menu here. So we're binding to the owner, but one up from it, which is again the menu, to not be enabled. So it'll hide the menu. So next, for use is going to be pretty similar. It's a button. It has a triggered action with a UI button trigger. And then on that, it has a use item action. Again, the target is the player. The item to use is the owner, and up one, so that's menu. And then it's again set to use binding, so it's whatever menu is bound to, so that's the item that we're talking about here. And then the use target is the player. And then we have, again, the set enabled action to disable the whole menu. So we're pointing to owner and ... so that goes to menu and it's got enabled off. So that's what this menu looks like. Let's disable that again. So then the next part we have is the data binding components. So we do have this icon that I showed you a little bit ago. And on the icon, we have a UI image data bind. And that's pointed to the owner, which is going to be the inventory item, and then icon. And then we have this label underneath it. And that has a UI text data bind. And that's pointed to owner item name. So it's important here to note that you want to point at item name and not just lowercase name, which would be the name of the prefab. In our case, this health potion. The reason being there is that item name is generated. Number one, it's localized. Number two, if you have attachments with prefix or postfix, so affixes, it's going to add those to it. So you always want to use item name when you're trying to show the name of an item. And then finally, we have a quantity, which is a UI item count data bind. That takes a target, so we're talking about the player here, and then it takes the name of the item, which we're binding to the actual name of the item that we're bound to, and that will show the quantity. And that's really it. So if we're to play in here, oops, I left it enabled. Oh well. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to pick up this guy. We'll notice we have one. We can click this. Use, there's nothing to use on it right now. And then we can drop it, and it drops. Pick it up again. You can see in here, now it's spawned. Drop it, it goes away. Pick it up again, it shows up. So that's it for a basic way of showing inventory. Obviously you can get more complicated by showing slots and picking out slots for hands or armor and showing those visually. But this is the basics right here. In this video you should have learned how to display inventory items and in a window to the player, and how to add a menu that will either drop them or use them if they support it. I hope you found this video informative and useful. Let us know in the comments if there are other videos or tutorials you'd like to see. Please be sure to subscribe and follow us on social media for the latest videos and other news. For more information on CAT or CAT RPG Builder and how they can help you build and prototype RPGs faster, please visit catgamebuilder.com. I'm Mike Denberger with Tricky Fast Studios. Thanks for watching.